Hi, everybody. Ella. I'm here with Nick, and I'm going to ask you actually, how do you prefer to be referred to?
Um, well, really, this is the first time I will be saying this, to anyone, really. But I mean, yeah, she, her. I mean, I have a fucking vagina.
Okay.
So,
Legit. All right, cool. Okay, so Nick is a female to male to, you're detransitioning now? Is that what
yeah,
we're,
yeah, you could say
okay.
that, yeah.
And Nick found my videos recently and commented, and I suggested to her that we have an interview, and she said, let's go. So, how did we get here? How did you get into the world of transitioning?
So your question was how I got into the world of transitioning.
Yes.
Well, I would say that I grew up I was homeschooled for most of my life, so I kind of became honestly like pretty dependent on the internet for learning about the world instead of kind of experiencing the world firsthand.
Hmm.
So I had a friend who I was like 12, 13. I had a friend, a close friend, who was kind of into that and who was like non-binary, or I don't know if she was identifying as that or as FTM at the time, but I really didn't understand it. When she first told me, she was like, hey guys, can you start calling me by he him pronouns? And I mean, it was really hard for me actually. Like I had to retrain my brain because this person, I simply didn't see this person as a male. So it was weird to me, and I didn't immediately like have the ideology that I eventually would grow into of whatever you are or whatever. I mean, and then it's complicated because my politics about it have changed over time, and I got into transmedicalism mid transition, and then I was disillusioned with that after a while, and then I just kind of was occupying this like I don't know, this in between I just started to hate other trans people. Like towards the end, like I just really started to hate other trans people a lot. And I started to hate myself even more because of like I don't want to be trans. I don't want to have any of these politics. And so yeah, so it was, it was a slow process of like when I was 13 thinking like hearing about like gender fluidity and all this stuff and identifying with that and dressing in male clothing, and I knew that I was attracted to women at the time. Like this is when I was first discovering that, and I was raised in a, I don't want to say evangelical household, but a very borderline, if not, yeah, like very religious Republican household. My father was like vocally homophobic. Like for example, when gay marriage was legalized, like he was very open about the fact that he thought it was ruining his America and personally affected him for some reason. So yeah, and just the fact that I grew up in like kind of on a farm, and like a really small town, and so I went to school with a lot of people who just weren't like me. I also happened to be autistic and to have potentially some kind of disordered personality, which has been suggested to me when I was like 10 or 11, but
Hmm.
I wasn't able to be diagnosed at the time. So now I need to go back and I plan on doing that. But yeah, so I really don't know for sure like the reasons behind it, but I every day I kind of untangle it a little bit more of like why this has happened to me, and it really feels like it's something that's happened to me, and it's a combination of like a lot of different things, and there's so many aspects of this. It's hard for me to even
Yeah.
like
Okay. So
narrow
let's
it
see
down.
if we can try to break it down. So you said around 13 was when she introduced it to you. So
Yes.
prior to that, like you kind of were figuring out, I guess, your sexuality, but this idea of you might have been in the wrong body was not a thing for you prior to learning about.
Yeah, I never had the sense of being in the wrong body per se, but I when I look back, it was very easy for me to justify that I felt that way because I was like when I was a child, as soon as like I could access the internet and stuff like that, I would go online and I would pretend to be a boy and talk to girls, and I felt good doing that. And then like there were times when I don't want to say like not like cross dress, but like put my hair up and look at myself and just feel strange. I felt strange. So I wouldn't say that, and being autistic as well, you feel different from birth. You feel different from other women and I mean, everybody. You feel different from everybody. But since the way that you relate to the world is through your gender, I guess the thought is like, I'm not like other females. So autistic and liking women, it's kind of not a surprise to me that a lot of transitioning women are autistic. I think that my understanding of gender, I feel like I feel like my development as a human female was like psychologically was just stunted in some way, like due to a lot of different things. But it just stopped me from developing into like a woman mentally the way that I should have. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I do wonder all the time, like if it wasn't for the ideology, if I would have felt that way or if I would have eventually gotten used to my role. But that's another aspect, huge aspect of it, is as soon as I became conscious of my expected role in society, I was just very uncomfortable with that and rebelled against it. And it just turned into a very extreme rebellion against it, I think.
Hmm.
I've talked to a lot of detransitioners these past few days, past week or so, and read a lot of their stories and heard a lot of their stories. And, it's different for everybody. I've met some people that say, yeah, I detransitioned and then like now my dysphoria, I don't even know why I felt that way. I don't even have dysphoria anymore and things like that. For me,
You
it's,
grew out of it.
yeah, and for me, I dearly hope that I can get past this, but it's something I still struggle with a lot. It's like wishing that I could be male.
Mhm.
Like I definitely would prefer that, not just for social reasons, but just for purely physical reasons. Like I just have a lot of trouble understanding myself, and there's a lot of confusion there.
Mhm.
And I think we're all really confused, and I'm really sad for my trans sisters and brothers. It just like the things that but I've learned more about being trans in these past few days than any other trans person or trans advocate or like any of those people ever were never able to explain to me why I felt this way, and they were
Mhm.
never able to make sense of it to me or to other people. And you can have a conversation with a trans person, like, and you can relate a lot about your shared illness, but there's no real insight into why, or self-awareness, into why we are the way we are.
So the idea that nobody ever offered you a solution who was within the community,
Yeah.
these last few days and talking to detransitioners, what what have you found? Like, have you found some answers, and what do you think has allowed you to find those answers through this like research that you've done?
Well, I'm ashamed to admit this, but the biggest thing for me has just been to realize that women are people.
Yeah. Mhm.
Like, I don't know what the fuck happened to me, but for some reason I just internalized everything that I was, it's not like I had some terrible experience or anything. Like a lot of the people I've talked to, they've been sexually assaulted or just had really negative relationships with men throughout their life or something like that. And for me, it's not even that. It's just the fact that I I don't know. I just don't naturally fit into what I'm supposed to fit into. And so it makes sense to me that I picked up this ideology and I ran with it so far. I'm ashamed because I thought that I was more rational than that, but
Mhm.
I have to also know that I'm mentally ill. And that's really what I've taken also from speaking to these people is that we're all I mean, we're super mentally ill. I'm not going to say fucked
Yeah.
up. Like, yeah, like
Yeah.
a
We
lot of
all
us
are.
have personality disorders that make it hard for us to conceive of ourselves. And,
Hmm.
you know, I I view gender dysphoria, me personally, I prefer to view it as gender identity disorder. Like, because for me, I only realized this as I started to try to detransition or explore that possibility. But, and like, how do I do this? And I realized that in order to heal from this, I have to reintegrate my masculine and feminine side in
Mm-hmm.
much of the way that I've heard described of people with dissociative identity disorder, where they have these different perceived personalities, and in therapy they have to reintegrate all of those split selves into one cohesive identity.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically think that's the closest way that I can explain it. It's a dissociative disorder. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it's its own thing or if it's a result of, a bunch of other things. I'm not really sure, but the research on it being a mental disorder is very limited because of the politics around it, which is disgusting to me because a lot of us would rather receive help and be better than to continue on in delusion and constantly be suffering, because um, that it is constant suffering, daily. For me, I mean, it's not like it's gone away or anything, but at least I can kind of just breathe now and not have this expectation on me, even when I'm alone and in private, to constantly be something that I'm not. It's a cycle. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and people don't realize it when they're in it, because it's really hard to break out of it, but you're constantly reaffirming your own dysphoria, but you think that you're making it better because people have told you that this is what, if you have this feeling, this is what you do to fix it. And every step in transition that you take feels like it's working. But then time sinks in, and you realize that you have only made a further divide between you and like yourself, like who you are. It's hard to explain, but you
Yeah, the
know,
medical body and like the somatic self, like you've separated the two further than you were before when it was just a mental. Now it's mental and medical on top of it, right? Yeah.
yeah, I think that the real darkness of transition has been buried under this positivity. This like it's a journey, and we're I don't know, man. It's been really buried under this feel good bullshit that covers up the real realities. And people do talk about their dysphoria and stuff, but it's not in any kind of real honest way to themselves or to anybody else. And there's so much to it. It's not a simple thing, and so obviously it's not understood. Like, I think I just think that it's disgusting that we're shutting up professionals who try to, you know, who are trying to find a cure, and we're like, no, we don't need to be cured. But then you sit around and whine about your dysphoria all day. So what the fuck are you talking about? Like, do you want to be better, or do you want to revel in your own sickness? Because to me, it seems like the second. At least I don't know. It's. I'm still really figuring this stuff out and trying to figure out like what happened to me. I mean, not that anyone forced transition on me by any means, but something definitely occurred in my brain that I still don't understand because I was a child. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had this stable identity for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And right now it's just like I have no sense of self because I've that was shattered for me. It feels like the way I've explained it to, cis people, whatever the fuck, that means, is that it feels like I'm waking up from the Matrix, and a big part of me wants to just take the blue pill because it's kind of easier.
Mm-hmm.
But I just, I mean, I can't do that because it's still you're still suffering. Yeah, you have to take the red pill in order to ever have any understanding of yourself as a human being. So
True, very true. Okay, so just quickly, the blue pill, did you take testosterone? Are you on
yes,
testosterone
yeah,
currently? Like
um,
still taking it? And
yeah,
when did you start that?
a year and a half ago.
Year and a half ago. So you were just, I guess, 18 and a half?
Yeah, I was like 18 and a half. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's two things I'm going to ask you about the testosterone. One, do you feel like the testosterone has like inhibited your psychological growth or emotional growth. And two, you feel like it was kind of like a blue pill, like, you know what I mean? Like, get you over like what's happening, kind of put a band-aid on the issues instead of.
Yeah, I definitely think that it was a way for me to get to cope with reality and to get through a period of my life for sure. I think, I don't have the. I mean, and I could always change. Like my opinion on this because I'm still trying to figure this stuff out. And honestly, it's like a gradual process of me pulling myself out of delusion, just from pure willpower and just
Mhm.
pure wanting to be a normal person and just wanting to be better. Like I'm forcefully dragging myself out of the pit, and there's still
You're
moments like
very
even
strong
today.
and you're doing a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'm proud of myself for it, but it's also like it's fucking hard because you just want to fucking slide back in.
Mhm.
And so I don't have exactly the typical narrative as of now. This could change because, like I said, I'm still somewhat delusional. Like it's not like it just goes away. But I still I enjoy being physically masculinized. Um, I it did make me feel a lot more comfortable in my body.
Mhm.
Um, so but the thing is it also makes it harder to stay in reality, so to speak, about the fact that I am a female. So
Mhm.
it's not exactly like, if you're considering transitioning and your only worry is like, oh, what if I regret, the physical effects? Well, or if you go on it and you like the physical effects and then that affirms that you're doing the right thing, that's you're not thinking about this enough. You're not thinking about this in the right way because
Mhm.
it's not really about that. It's about staying grounded in reality and just trying to accept who you are. And like the further you go in, altering yourself, the harder to be more masculine. It's harder to accept yourself as a female, and it's harder to see yourself that way. So it's like, yeah, I think I can't. It's hard to say whether or not I regret going on it because I enjoy the effects, but and that's I'm not even today. I think what is it, Wednesday? Yeah, so today would be my shot day really, and this is the first time that I have not wanted to take it, and it's like it's hard because I don't even know, like, I just don't like the person that I am off of it. Like, not just, physically, like physically and emotionally. I just don't like that person.
Mhm.
But um it's just sad that you should have to inject yourself with testosterone to like yourself.
Mhm.
So for that reason, I don't think it's healthy for anyone to go on it. I can't say that I would advise anyone to do what I've done, even though, I'm not sitting here and being like, oh no, about the physical changes. I like, the increased strength. I like being muscular. I like being more masculine in general. It feels good. I like myself more that way, but I just wish that I wish that things had been different and that I had more time to, explore myself before I did turn to this. But frankly, I doubt there's anything that ever could have convinced me not to because I truly felt desperate. Like, I felt like the estrogen that like being run by estrogen, I felt disgusting. I still do. Like when and it's like it's better now because I'm not constantly looking in the mirror and like beating myself up for the effects of estrogen, because I'm like, well, I'm a woman and I'm accepting it more. But I'm still so disconnected from saying like I'm a woman or from hearing like she, like that stuff is still so foreign to me. Like it really does feel the same as if I were to call you like he. But that doesn't, I mean, it's just familiarity, maybe. I don't know. But I have to I do have thoughts of like, oh God, what if like it would be easier to transition, and like, it's not fair that you get to build your body and to like look good, but you can't show it off like men get to do, and you don't get to, you know what I mean? Like, you don't get to show off your pecs and stuff like that. And that's,
Mm.
I think there's a big, degree of that, but it's like, here, my option is I can live fully actualized as a woman, or I can live never actualized as a, I mean, I don't even know what to call it, like creature. Like, I mean, you just feel like a freak. You feel like a freak all the time. And I don't want to make people who have transitioned physically like feel like that, because I don't think, I think that at any point that you're at, you can come to a more realistic view of your situation, and you can benefit from that, and from radically choosing to just accept yourself, at whatever point you're at. It's, just that like your dysphoria will be worse the more that you kind of fight against it and try to fix things about yourself.
Oh,
And
Nick, hold on. Let's wait. You're buffering really bad, and I don't want to like miss what you're saying.
yeah,
So,
I don't know what I was saying.
oh shoot, I wish I could go back and find out what you were
It's
saying.
okay.
You were saying that. Oh man, I wish I didn't interrupt you. You
No,
were
it's all right.
saying, sorry, I just that like I dissociate all the time. Like
Yeah,
I dissociate a lot. So like a lot of what when you talk about dissociating, I'm like,
yeah,
all right, it's time, and I like float
yeah.
off.
That's the thing, is like I'm constantly dissociating, and I didn't even realize how much that had to do with being trans, but you know, it's like I just have not been grounded in reality at all for 7 years, and it's embarrassing because the way that you act when you're just not in your right mind, and the damage that you do to your life, and it just, yeah, it's embarrassing, frankly.
I'm sorry that you feel embarrassed. I don't want you to feel embarrassed because you're still, for all intents and purposes, you're a child. Like your brain is
Yeah,
not even like
I
close
know.
to like fully developing like until you're 25, right? So,
Yeah,
um, you shouldn't feel so embarrassed. You should feel accomplished for the fact that you have come to this realization, like on your own,
yeah,
really. I mean, you're doing great. And yeah, dissociating is difficult to deal with, especially when you don't know you're doing it. You realized about 15 years earlier than me, so just okay. Wait, I wanted to ask you something. Oh, and it's going away. Oh, hold on. I wanted to ask you. Hold on, hold on. How did you end up finding my channel specifically?
well, actually, my this detransitioner group that I'm in, I was just talking to this one woman from it, and she actually just sent me your video because we were talking about Calvin Garrah. We were
Oh,
talking about
okay.
Calvin Garrah, and yeah, she sent me your video. She told me about like, oh, did you hear that, Calvin Garrah like doxed somebody? And I was like, what? And
Yeah.
so she sent me her video, and I used to be such a huge Calvin Garrah fan. In fact, the only reason that I stopped watching Calvin Garrah is because I became more extreme than Calvin Garrah.
Oh,
Like, so much more extreme than Calvin Garrah. I was so much worse and more toxic than Calvin Garrah. Like,
really?
if you think Calvin Garrah is bad, I was worse because like Calvin Garrah started being like a little more accepting of like non-binary stuff, and I really swallowed the true scum pill, and I was very toxic about it, and would, yeah, I think you just, I don't know. It's like there's no like trans politics that is not super toxic. So you think that you go to that thinking that it's a little more rational than this like thousand gender shit, but
Hmm.
it's really, I don't want to say it's like even more delusional, but in a way it kind of is, because it's like, wait, you guys think that you can actually become some kind of legitimate male or female, where at least the non-binary people like kind of own that they're not, you know what I mean, that they can't. So
Mm.
all of it is just like bullshit, and it's really the ideology, the politics of it are just it really dangerous, really really
Hmm.
dangerous.
Okay, so Garrah, you were
Yeah.
saying that influenced on you. You ended up worse than. So when did you come to realize that like? Okay. I deviated from that belief so much that like, whoa, this is where I've ended up.
Calvin Garrah posted something on his story about just like I don't even know what it was, just something where he indicated that he was changing his opinion about being more accepting of dysphoric non-binary people. And for me, I was just like so annoyed by that. And also, not just that, but I had become so self-hating that these guys that I used to look like these trans guys that I used to look up to, such as Calvin, I used to look at them and be like, oh, I wish I could look like that. Like I wish that was me. I started to look at them and be like, I need to look better than them. I need to be better than them. Um, and it's like, and started to just look at them and be like, "Ah, what a fucking lesbian. Like he looks like a lesbian. Like, um, you know, criticizing people just so much to the point where it's like if they couldn't live up to my perfect standard of what a male was supposed to be, I just would unfollow them. So it came to a point where even the most like even Adian Dowling, which I don't know if you know who that is, but even the most is the first trans guy on the cover of like Men's Health. So,
Okay.
he's totally passing and all that shit. Like he's super masculine or whatever. But it even got to the point where I would look at someone like Adian Dowling and be like, I can still see it. I can still see the female
Hmm.
and just be disgusted by it. And I'm like, it's awful to admit that. And, I'm not proud of that. And I don't think that way anymore. But but yeah, it got to that point where, and I lived like that for a really long time. And it's only extremely recently, like, again, like the past week that I realized that it's just that this mindset that I've gotten into is just terrible, and I can't continue to live that way.
Hmm.
So, um, so yeah, it was kind of a big turning point for me to realize that I didn't admire Calvin Garrett anymore. Um, Not just because he's not a very admirable person, but also because I had reached the same point of transition that he kind of had at the time, and
Hmm.
like it
Hmm.
um I realized that it just wasn't enough, and that's something you realize is at least for me, it was never going to be enough. Um, I could have gone. I mean, my end goal was phalloplasty, um, and I man, it just never would have been enough. Like no matter what I would have done, because it always would have been something. And it's like, no, well, it's not my dick. Well, no, it's not. It always would have been something, and it just is not. I never would have been satisfied.
Hmm.
So maybe there are some people out there who can be satisfied, but I would say that it must be very distressing still to constantly live in a disconnect. Like you can never really cross over. You can never really cross over.
You never actually transition. You're always in transition. Like this is a forever thing. This isn't like so this isn't going to end one day and you're going to be completed. It's going to be, you're going to do this for the rest of your life kind of deal.
Yeah, and the thing is I've thought for so long that that was okay with me and that I could accept that because my dysphoria is just so bad that I had to accept that. And I wonder like how much of that has to do with the narrative of this is the treatment for really bad dysphoria, and oh well, if you just detransition, it means you never had dysphoria, which is bullshit. It's bullshit.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, it's complete bullshit. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I never was under the delusion that I could ever have XY chromosomes. But that's why I was so miserable, is because I was constantly like in existential pain about it. And
Hmm.
um, you know, but for some reason it never occurred to me that I could just like that never occurred to me until quite recently. And even now I'm still struggling with that. So yeah, it's a strange thing.
With regards to like never having the sensation that you can just be, do you feel like that was never taught to you in any capacity, like from school, from parents, from media? What influenced you to you know, really believe that you couldn't just exist as you were?
I think it's a combination of different things. It's the mental illness. Because, if you don't have the mental illness, none of these other factors are really going to have the influence on you. So, yeah, so the core of it, I guess, is the mental illness. But I also feel that, you know, realizing that I'm attracted to women and then kind of like I was met with a lot of discomfort around expressing that in any way, whether that be like in the way that I dress or express myself, or even just trying to talk about it in the way that, like, girls can talk to each other about, oh, that the boys they find cute or whatever. But if I had tried to talk about a girl that I found cute, it just made other people really uncomfortable. And I think that in a way, like, this really is like people performing conversion therapy on themselves.
Mm.
And I think that is a really large part of it. And another part of it is that just being a woman, and I don't know, I'm not, I didn't accept my role as easily as it seems many women do. Like, it's taken me this long to even, I don't know, like, consider. I don't know if it's about it's even inherent in, like, the way that, like, women and men, because I mean, I'm confused about my sexuality, but, like, I think that I'm bisexual. So it's not that I'm like a lesbian. It's just, I don't like the role, like I've said this multiple times, but I just don't like the role that I've been given, not just even socially, but just sexually. Like, I don't like the idea or the feeling or any I don't like anything associated with submitting to a man in any capacity. I don't like being dominated,
Mm.
um by a man or by anyone, really. So, I think it's, a mental illness thing, a personality thing, a sexuality thing, and also the fact that I have body dysmorphia really, really bad. And I think that can easily, and I also have OCD. And all these things can, like, just come together, and the autism and all these things can come together and just be a really deadly cocktail for developing gender dysphoria. So yeah, I don't know. I could never just be. I'm a very tortured person.
I'm sorry to hear that. I don't want to hear that you're tortured, and I really wish you well. I just want you to know that, like, that I, as a not ever been trans person, I identify with everything that you've listed off. Like, I have ADHD, I have PTSD. I am I'm pretty sure I'm autistic because the amount of dissociation that I've done in my life, it doesn't add up to the kind of dissociation that they describe for someone who has ADHD. I kind of always have felt that, like, there's been me and, like, the person beside me. Does that
Yeah.
make any sense to
No, it
you?
makes complete sense to me. Yeah.
And um like, yeah, it's just kind of like, and like also body dysmorphia. Like, I think my nose is like out to here. Like, I really do. It's
Yeah.
never gonna change, right? And I've always had like a huge issue with my body not being as womanly as a Barbie. I've always thought that if I didn't look like a Barbie, then I wasn't girly enough. And then also there was the lesbian aspect where, like, I didn't know I was a lesbian. And for the longest time, like, I couldn't even say I was a lesbian. I didn't start saying lesbian me until this year, even though
Yeah.
I'll be 37 in May. Okay. So, like, yeah, it's just, I want you to know that, like, so many women and so many homosexual, bisexual women identify with a lot of what you've been through. You're not alone. We're all here with you. And thank you for sharing everything with us. This is,
Yeah.
I'm really proud of you for, like, taking the steps and being open, and, like, the self awareness that it's taking you to be here and jump in. Like, it means you're strong. It means you're intelligent. Like, you have the power. So, like, good on you.
Thank you. Thank you. Also I appreciate your voice and being out there despite, a lot of people wanting to silence you and not being happy with it and insisting that you're transphobic. It's not transphobic to want to help us. That's, less traditional than what is happening right now. Like, we're taught to be scared of people like you. Like, the ideology teaches us that you guys are demons, and that we're literally just supposed to la 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 la. And that's terrifying.
Yeah,
So
that is right. Like, I mean, you would think that, okay, there's twofold for that, right? There's like the part where we need to be able to communicate with the rest of society. You need to be able to communicate with us. We need to be able to communicate with you. Um, but also like that demonization piece where it makes it so that we not only aren't heard, but like it frames help as harm. Like
yeah,
that ContraPoints video, the most recent one. And I really couldn't critique it much apart from pointing out all the gaslighting. Like it was just crazy. Like,
I haven't even seen it yet.
oh, don't bother.
Yeah,
It's just a mass amount of framing women who are trying to protect children and women, other women, even we're trying to protect men as well. Like it's just a matter of like trying to ensure that people are safe and healthy and that no one is harmed. But literally, like the way Contra framed it was as though we are using the platform of help as a guide to actually bring harm to the
right.
trans community. And I mean, I can't imagine why would I spend so much time. I don't have a lot of time. Like I have 3 kids. I'm disabled. It's really hard for me to put all these videos together. Like if you watch one of my videos, one of my more recent videos, like one of like not my short clips, but one of my longer ones, you'll see that like I filmed it over the course of the entire 12 hours of light throughout the day. Like it was, and it was
Yeah.
like a 20-minute video, right? But like it's a lot of work. I can't imagine spending all of this time and energy just to be actually to bring someone harm, to be bad to people. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's that's delusional to me that they could believe that we have all of this. I don't have the energy to be that negative. It's not in me. Do you know what I
Well, the
mean?
thing is we have to have a narrative. We have to explain away the outliers in order to justify our own existence while we're transitioning. Because if anything breaks the reality that we have so carefully constructed, like it could shatter our entire identity. And it's a very hard thing to deal with. And the only reason that I have done that voluntarily is because I've done it voluntarily. Like you have to do it voluntarily. No one else can shatter that for you. So you're going to get that backlash from people who are just trying to maintain their own reality. And so I think it's important to also have empathy for that and to remember that like it is a genuine like sickness and we are suffering very much.
Mm-hmm.
And for the people who do continue to transition, we do need to find a way to fit them into society because they're here, and we can't undo that. And they also deserve to not suffer so much just because of what is essentially a delusion or a dissociative disorder or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a really nuanced conversation, and I don't want to contribute to anyone's ideology. I think this needs to be as non-political as possible, and we just need to focus on mental health for young people before they develop gender dysphoria in the first place. Or if they're really young and they already have that, well, I mean, it's mental health, advocacy, not trans rights. We need to talk about mental health for young people. That's my core message. If anything, if anyone can take anything from this, is that.
I 100% agree with you. So what my idea, like what I want to focus on trying to get done is that like feminism and mental health be taught from like junior kindergarten. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, if you're learning your ABCs, you learn mental health. If you're
Yeah.
learning your ABCs, you learn feminism. And
Yeah.
then, like, because it's like you said, we need to have empathy for everybody who's going through either their mental illness or traumatic, like, results of, say, an abusive situation. We have to teach kids how to well, we need to teach kids how to see women properly, right? That's like, so feminism
Yeah.
for that aspect, because girls need to learn that they're not the objects that are portrayed in the media, right? That's another thing for all of us, is that we're absorbing that and we're not being taught, like, well, actually, this is real life. This is what it's really like to be a human female.
Yeah. I mean, my
um,
I used to be a very strong anti-feminist before I started, way before I started identifying as trans. And I think that is a precursor to the trans thing. Is I rejected feminism so hard. I literally describe myself as an anti-feminist, and I thought it was so stupid and like annoying.
mm,
And like it's because my introduction to feminism was not like your kind of feminism, like intelligent feminism. It was like the liberal feminine, like fake, like performative type of just bullshit. And
you know what we call liberal feminism in the radical feminist circles? We call it men's sexual rights activism.
yeah, yeah, actually, yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me. You know,
Yeah.
it's not real feminism. Like what you're doing is you know, historically like feminism, the important feminism has not been um accepted easily, and it's been fought back against, and no one wants to hear it, and that's exactly what you guys are doing. So to me that's real feminism of this day and age is, you know, that,
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah.
It is a fight. It's really hard to, because patriarchy and, well, everything that has been you know, encouraged by the patriarchy. So, like, the medical industrial complex and the pharmaceutical industry, um, we're very heavily reliant on quashing, like, women's skills and our own natural methods of medicating ourselves, like through herbal medicine and uh, even like midwifery, like birthing children naturally and not having to do it medically through a
Right.
hospital with a male doctor. And so that's really weird. Like, why are there so many male doctors delivering babies when no men can have babies? Do you know what I mean? But like,
Yeah.
that's where we're at. We're at this, like, really male driven, obviously, and male centered society, that dehumanizes women at a very, very early age. And that's what
Yeah.
you were exposed to, right? And that's why you were like, oh, feminism.
Yeah.
I don't want that shit. That doesn't make me feel good about myself.
Yeah.
But we're not taught real feminism. We're taught patriarchy's feminism.
It's very true. I find that to be very true. And yeah, I think you're right. Is that if that was taught in school, as well as psychology, I was just actually telling someone this like a couple days ago. Is we learn all this fucking bullshit that we don't, half of it we don't even use beyond, you know, school, but we don't get taught about our own minds or the concept of the ego or, you know, like any of this stuff. And I think I would have really benefited, you know, from learning about this stuff and having a psychology class, you know, and
Do
a
you know
feminist
how much
class.
we all would have just been taught about negative core beliefs?
Mm,
Just that one piece, okay? If we were taught about our negative core beliefs and that all we had to do was use a little bit of cognitive behavioral therapy to change that core belief within ourselves and do a little bit of meditation, oh my God, the world would be an entirely different place. We're taught that our negative core beliefs are like our soul, like they're innate and we're born with it and we're going to die with it and we have to accommodate it no matter what. Um, and I think if, like, instead of treating our negative core beliefs with external treatments like pills and like surgeries and shots, and we were taught, but they're trying to say that now, okay, well, in Canada, anyways, there are bills in place already that say if you don't use the affirmative model for trans kids, then you are performing conversion therapy against the trans children.
It's just so backwards. It's just so fucking backwards. Like, I when I went to, get tea for the first time when I was 18, I went through the process of like when you getting therapy for it and stuff, but the therapists were offended at my beliefs that there wasn't a third gender. So like, yeah, like literally like I was more even though I was the mentally ill delusional person, I was still more grounded in reality than the woman that was sitting across from me. So I said fuck this and
That's
went to Planned
scary.
Parenthood. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, ideology has affected this practice so much that it's fucking disgusting. And I just fear for people who are like me, who are growing up now after me. Like, it was hard enough for me, to sort this out. I can't even imagine the babies that are being born now, who are being born into this world of like gender, like whatever the fuck, a gender ideology, and like I don't know how they're gonna figure themselves out. It's gonna be a lot harder, and it's scary. That's all I can say. It's terrifying. Like I literally feel as though I have woken up from the Matrix, and I'm living in a world that but it's like I'm still kind of living in the Matrix because everyone else, like a lot of other people, are still in it and still buy this shit, and it's super isolating because to be one of the few people that really understands both sides and really understands any of it. So, I mean, yeah,
Yeah, I can understand that isolation piece. I guess being a radical feminist is isolating too in that sense, because when you do try to bring up the fact that these bills are happening here in Canada and the fact that there was a man, a father, who is actually in jail right now for correctly gendering his daughter,
mm,
it's like people are like, this is happening here in Canada? Like, what are you talking about? And
mm.
then there's the other people who are like, you need to stop talking because you are hateful. So yeah, I understand that isolation piece about being kind of like privy to it all, but like can't really
You
share
gotta shut
anything with
up.
anybody because yeah.
Yeah,
So that's why I do the thing that I do on YouTube, is because I can say the things that I need to say for now. I mean, I've had videos removed, I've had strikes against me. Um, and like on TikTok is like, wow, I get videos removed every day, so that's fun.
yeah. I'm surprised they
Um,
even let you keep your videos on YouTube or any of it. Like, it's so they just are censoring everything as hate. Um,
yeah,
and it's like we're living in a dystopia. That's how I feel.
it is. It's very dystopian. It's very disconnecting, and it does feel. I feel hopeless for the future, but that's I kind of always have felt hopeless. Like I'm. I guess I'm kind of a, a misanthrope in that
Yeah.
aspect, or a nihilist. But like you said, for the babies who are being born into this, like I have my daughters are going to be 4 and 5 this summer. My son is a little bit older; he's 12, and I've very much taught him that this trans stuff is
Yeah.
a no go, and that we're not going down that path. And he's very educated on it. But like with having daughters, it's a little bit scarier. Like I know that I can shield them from it, and I know that I can teach them everything, but I feel like just because of the way society is, girls will be much more susceptible to these males offering this, you know, this ideology. So like I feel like am I going to be forced to homeschool them? Do you know what I mean? And keep them away, make sure that.
For me, that's part of
Mm,
why this happened to me is that I was homeschooled and that I was so heavily isolated from peers and having that peer validation from being a female. So
mm,
that is the opposite from my perspective of what you should do. Um, I mean it's scary, but I honestly think if you just raise your kids right, that they will likely be fine. And that, if God forbid, if they do start, going through that, all you can do is like not push too hard against it, because if you do push too hard against it, it will make you seem the transphobe, and it will
Mhm.
make you the enemy. And for me, I only am able to come to this now when everyone in my life has pretty much accepted me. When my mother has accepted me, finally, after so long of like fighting about this, she's
Mhm.
finally kind of just come to being like accepting of, okay, you're trans, I'll call you he. Um, and it took that, and to take that out aspect out of my mind, because that's a part that really occupies your mind. And once you free that up, you have more space to really
Mm.
think about your transition in other ways. So, that's another thing I would love to do, is find a way to get information out to parents about how to deal with this, because I think so often like parents are just blindsided by this, and they just don't know what the fuck to do, so they end up making it worse by reinforcing the like, people would try to explain to me why I wasn't a boy, and inadvertently would reinforce to me my conviction that I was, because the way that they explained it was just so poor. It's not about gender, it's about sex, and I think that's what needs to be reiterated. The reality of sex, and not even venture into like gender stereotypes, or what that means, or the roles, or saying, oh, but you're so beautiful, or anything like that, because for me it was about not wanting to be beautiful. So yeah, I think it's complicated, but there just needs to be more honest research into this. And I'm so afraid, because the studies that I read that helped me, be rational about this, and helped me lead to the point where I am now. The people who wrote those studies and who did that research, like, they had their clinic shut down, and they had, a lot of backlash. They got fired or whatever. And it's like, but these are the only people who are approaching it in a way that could actually like help this community in a real way. But the community is so just wants to believe that they're right about, and wants to believe that they're so valid, that it's like la 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 la, and it's that's just
Mm.
not it's not the way. And I just encourage transsexuals, transgenders, whatever, to just be more receptive, and don't close your ears. If something makes you uncomfortable, that means it's for a reason, and you need to explore that even more.
Very good. Yeah, no, you're right. When you say we need to like be specific and speak about like and use reality based terms, like it's not about gender. It is
Yeah.
about sex. And the
Yeah.
stereotypes come from sex. They don't come from gender. They come from the idea that a human with a female body is expected to do A, B, C, D, and a human with a male body is expected to do A, B, C, D. And yes, those expectations are stupid, but some of them are based in reality, like mothers are going to be female, right?
Yeah.
And because of the fact that, females go through pregnancy and they create the love bonding hormone, there is, you know, reasons for mothers to be more loving and caring and protective of children and other humans. That's innate, that's genetic, right? But to say that all women have to be mothers because they have uteruses, that's ridiculous, right? But like you said, it's all based in like reality based terms, getting back to like speaking truthfully and honestly with our kids. Um, and then hopefully, but that's the thing, language is being curbed and it's being described as hate speech in
Yeah.
certain laws now in certain countries, right? So that's a fight in itself. We have to fight for language to be able to use proper terminology at this point.
Yeah.
It's far gone, isn't it?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's very far gone, and I'm honestly just bewildered that I was sucked into that, and that I perpetuated gender when that is the thing that was causing me so much suffering, and I push it onto others. And I feel so sorry for that. I really do. And
everybody loves you for accepting your place in this and for acknowledging that you are who you are and you are what you are. And I don't think anybody would ever harbor any ill will towards you or hold any negative feelings towards you when you were literally indoctrinated by a cult and you came out the other side on your own and you're willing to speak out to help people now.
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing and wonderful. Oh, and I was going to suggest to you, would you create your own YouTube channel? And possibly, like you said, parents need to know how to be able to speak to children who are going through this. Do you think that you could maybe be that voice?
I think that is something that I've been thinking about, and I'm definitely going to keep thinking about it. Um, yeah, I'm definitely going to do something, because it's just, I can't just, knowing what I do now and having the insight I have on it, I can't just be silent and just continue to live my life, because a part of my healing is also like helping other people not have to go through the same thing that I went through. So yeah, it might be, I very well might do a YouTube channel. I'm not really sure yet, but yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Keep me posted. I will definitely subscribe. Okay, is there anything else that I didn't ask you that you really wanted to say that you think is important?
I mean, I could probably think of a million things. It's such a deep topic,
Okay. Okay, so then do we want to just like close off by saying like we're gonna have another chat like once you figure out what you're gonna do and we'll come back and see
yeah,
how things are doing and okay, cool. Okay.
I think that's a good idea.
I wanted to say thank you to Nick for coming and speaking with me. You're super fucking cool. I think you're really intelligent. I'm super happy for you and that you're figuring this all out. And we will catch up soon. Nick, if you want to go ahead and say goodbye.
Yeah, if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening to me. I really appreciate it, and I hope that somebody could take something from this. So thank you guys for watching it, and thank you, Ella, for sharing your voice. I think it's really important.